All right, it is that time once again to hit the books here, part of the Hammer Betting Network, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Jimmy Harbaugh. That is Joey Knish.
Free Harbaugh. Hashtag free Harbaugh.
Yeah, we will get into that 4-game suspension and how that might impact or might not, obviously, impact Michigan's upcoming schedule. We also got Zach Phillips, our producer extraordinaire. I'm merely Brad Powers. Before we dive in to this Big Ten preview for the upcoming 2023 season, let me remind everybody that Hit the Books is brought to you by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is to use multiple sports books and always get the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, and player props. You can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Download the app today. If you're looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/hitthebooks or hit the link in the description. If you sign up through this page, it does help support the show. Knish, you and I have been doing a bunch of these. This is our 9th out of 10th preview for the 2023 season. I think it's the most anticipated one. No disrespect to the SEC, but you and I are both from Big Ten country, and I'm looking forward to talking a little Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and some Mel Tucker slander as well on this. Let's start with the 2-time defending champs, though. And this is the first time I would start a Big Ten preview with this program in a while. Obviously, used to be Ohio State for probably the better part of 2 decades, but Michigan deserves the number 1 spot. They've beaten the Buckeyes each of the last 2 years, and you got to like what's coming back for Michigan this year. I mean, this arguably on paper could be Harbaugh's best team. When you start at quarterback and J.J. McCarthy, the 1-2 punch of Blake Corum when healthy and Donovan Edwards at running back, offensive line, the 2-time defending Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, has some key guys back there, plus they added some key transfers. The defensive front, I think, is loaded, even though they lose a couple more high-profile draft picks. I love their defensive front. I think one of the bigger questions on the team would be 2 positions. Finding maybe that alpha wide receiver, that go-to guy in a clutch situation. Hint, hint, there's not going to be too many of them on the schedule this year, probably Penn State and the Buckeyes. I think they need to find a wideout, and they need to find a number 2 cornerback. I mean, if that's your question marks, obviously you got a pretty damn good football team, and I think Harbaugh's got one this year. What say you, Knish?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, and not hyperbole, probably the best Michigan team since 2003 that went 11-0 and then lost to Ohio State in that the game of the century there.
2006,
and before that, probably 97 when they won the national title. I think this team's, higher ceiling team than the last 2 years that won the championship, make the playoff. Doesn't mean they're going to do it again, but I said, and I know I talked about this a little bit on Twitter. This is the first time in a long time that I think going into the season, Michigan is slightly better than Ohio State. We'll get into the Buckeyes there, but. As you said, in terms of weaknesses, in terms of depth, I mean, there's just not much outside of a McCarthy injury. This team could lose 1 or 2 defensive linemen, 1 or 2 offensive linemen, and I think not break stride. There's not many teams in the country that can say that. So, little thin at the second corner spot. Wide receiver, we'll see if, after Ronnie Bell leaves, one of those guys can step up. But as we know, this isn't a team that exactly slings it around the park. Now, I think you will see... last year the splits were like 68-32 run pass. I think you'll see them want to get more toward. I'll believe 50-50 when I see it, but a lot of the offseason focus has been getting this team to be a little bit more dynamic in the passing offense, and a team that I think is in that realistic chance for a do they have the talent level of a Georgia? No, but with Georgia turning over a quarterback, Alabama turning over a quarterback. I think they're in that national title conversation there. And the problem is, did I want to buy them before the season? Not really. And then they play, the first 9 games, they're probably going to go 9-0. So I don't know if they'll be a great spot to buy at this point through the year. But yeah, a Michigan team that, I think is as excited as people have been around here, for the majority of my lifetime.
Can't disagree with any of that. Let's bring up the Harbaugh recent news. That just broke here in the last 48 hours before we're recording this show. Did that impact? Because the market moved a little bit, at least week 1 against East Carolina. I know you got to take on that.
Friend in the industry, definitely, steam that.
Yeah. What's your thoughts? Is there a downgrade for a guy like Harbaugh, one of the top 5-6 coaches in the country? And what's your thoughts on it? I mean, I think it's a joke of a suspension, to say the least. And you're talking to a guy that's from Ohio and is not necessarily a big Michigan guy. So I just, for what, buying a cheeseburger? I mean, I would deny, and lie to the NCAA. That's what the SEC coaches do. What's your thoughts on the suspension?
Yeah,
I think it can motivate the team.
I agree. I think that now the issue is there's some Sharon Moore rumored to be the OC suspended for week 1, which to me could have a little effect where you're not going to have Harbaugh, you're not going to have Moore, you're going to have somebody calling plays that probably doesn't have much experience in that department. So I think that could be a little bit of a hiccup week 1. So there's the more news kind of came after, so that's some potential there. But I think he's a guy, he's a guy who's probably going to be looking for head coaching jobs after this year anyway. You give him a little 3-game shutout, so I think it'll be fun. Obviously, it's an easy 4-game stretch. And as you said, I mean, this isn't just Michigan. This is, Ohio State went through it with the Jim Tressel stuff. If you play ball with the NCAA, they're going to come and hammer you. There is no this is something that the Big Ten and some of the other, conferences where the SEC is, they're having your state rep, your state senator say, we're going to sue you if you try and penalize us. And they're not talking to anybody. If Harbaugh shuts them down and nobody says nothing, then they wouldn't get, this ongoing investigation that never leads to anything. You try and play ball with them and boom, now they want to come and, hammer you. Meanwhile, you've got, some of our oil friends in Texas that are, giving away plots of land to kids, to 5-stars to come and play, around here, for a couple of cheeseburgers, the difference. So, yeah, I don't know what the future of the NCAA looks like, but
no future.
Hope I would agree with you because you give them an inch and they want to take a mile to make it show that they're still, enforcing rules here. Absolute joke. And I think as a conference, the Big Ten needs to, get together and, basically bind and say, we're not going to be compliant in any NCAA investigations.
Love it. That is Joey Knish, ladies and gentlemen. Very passionate, as he should be. Have you done anything on their win total real quickly on Michigan 10.5? I would lean over. I haven't bet it yet, though.
Lean over. I know, that buddy of the show, the Tent, there's a couple exacta at Caesars where you can bet exactly 12. It was 380, 350, exactly 11 was 170, 180. So a little bit. I did a little of that to the portfolio. Nothing crazy, but yeah, I would lean over. Again, we're not super bullish. Teaser here. Neither of us are that bullish on Penn State to think that that they can really take the next step here. So yeah, I mean. They've probably got 3 losable games on the schedule. The at Penn State, Maryland that I'm kind of bullish on.
That's a scary game.
Yeah, that's a scary game. And then Ohio State. So, but I think if I had to wager money, it would be them 11-0 going into that Ohio State game.
Speaking of Ohio State, let's get to the Buckeyes. A lot of doom and gloom in Columbus, at least compared to past years. Obviously, the 2-game losing streak to Michigan. Not accustomed to, at least in the last, 2 decades. You got to go back to the John Cooper years to find probably this much negativity around the program. With that being said, they're a missed field goal away from Baby being the defending national champs. So I don't believe all the sky is falling. But with that being said, I think there's legitimate question marks. As I'm wearing the Blocko old school Woody Hayes hat here, I mean, it starts at quarterback. And no matter who starts, whether it's McCord or Devin Brown, I don't think they're going to get the same type of quarterback play that they've had the last 5-6 years since Ryan Day's been the OC and then head coach. So that's a big question mark. I don't like their tackle position. They had to go out in the transfer portal post-spring and get kids from San Diego State and UL Monroe, and I don't think either of those 2 kids are overwhelming. So that worries me. On the positive side, running back, wide receiver, as good as anybody in the country. I mean, Marvin Harrison is maybe the best talent in the entire country, regardless of position. I mean, he's a guy that's obviously a future top 3 pick in the draft. And that's with probably a quarterback going 1 and 2. So I like him. I think Travion Henderson will be healthier this year. Mike Williams is back. I think they're loaded at running back. I think the defense will be better this year. Now, will they be able to hold up at the point of attack against a Georgia or Michigan? That's still a question mark, but they made some strides last year. I think everybody reacts to what happened in the final 2 games, but prior to that, they were improved. And They got a lot of, key guys back. It's the second year for Jim Knowles, who runs a kind of a complex scheme. So the schedule, though, isn't, as easy as past Buckeye schedules. At Notre Dame, at Wisconsin, Penn State, at Michigan. So, normally if I'd have saw a 10.5 win total in the past 5-6 years, I'd be like, let me go over. The Buckeyes aren't losing 2 regular season games. I haven't bet it this year. I think 10.5 is right, and we haven't seen that market move at all. I think 10.5 that win total. Don't expect it to move much at all.
Yeah, I mean, as you're saying, like this, I mean, what a crazy, business in sports this is, where like you're probably one to show, try and be unbiased here. That Marvin Harrison call, it should have been targeting, and I think if that's a targeting call, I think not only win that game, they win the national championship. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, as you said, missed field goal, missed targeting, away from probably being national champs. And instead, you don't get either of those. And now, Ryan Day maybe on the hot seat going into Ann Arbor this year. So It's a ruthless business. But I'm with you a little bit. I think, as you said, defense will be better. Knowles, a little bit of a learning curve here in the Big Ten. I think you got a little bit of kind of had the wrong game plan going into that Michigan game that a lot of people are remembering. But I mean, that was, again, a game, 2 big plays at the end. That game was right there for 3.5 quarters. So the thin margins here that people are kind of trashing the staff on. But as you said, big concern. Probably a quarterback downgrade, no matter no matter what who they go with. Even if McCord is pretty good. Definitely an offensive line down. I mean, they were, recruit the gills out of it, but they, a couple of tackles leave early, first-round guys, and now the problem being that this is a team that kind of thrives on that passing offense being so potent that, it's not a defense that they want to lean on. It's like the how they butter their bread here with the focus of the team, that passing offense could be, that kind of looks like, the position on the team that could be taking a little bit of a step back. So we'll see. It depends, what kind of level Kyle McCord can get to there. I still think they'll be for the most part fine, with this together. But as you said, I mean, if they lose to Notre Dame and they lose to Michigan, does they still have a job? Trouble. I don't know. That's kind of so. Yeah, and the problem, and I think the biggest problem for Ohio State as a program right now is with Michigan rolling. That those games, when you go, they're at these outdoor end of the season games that they don't play into what Ohio State does well. It's a team you saw against Georgia when it's indoor. You have time to prep. You can throw it all over the field. That's how they want to play. Right now, you're playing either, no matter if it's in Columbus or Michigan, it's going to be, at best 30 degrees, a little bit of wind, maybe some snow. And that just doesn't play into their hands in terms of the rivalry game right now. So, I mean, ceiling-wise, it's always with their talent. They're still recruiting the hell out of the, kids. They're still crushing on the recruiting tail. So, not going to be short on talent. Last thing I would say is the only thing I'd worry about with the Marvin Harrison thing is you've seen these guys, whether it be, and I don't want to compare him to like a Leonard Fournette, but like year 3 of a guy who's basically a lock top 5 pick that, if they didn't have that rule, would have been, a top 5 pick this year. Any type of, you hamstring, any type of that, I'd worry. And, they've had some guys in the past, with Bosa and that there, JSN last year. Any type of, tinge of an injury, and you could talk about shutting it down. So that would be my only worry there with that. But other than that, as you said, skill position talent, bet good as it gets.
Wow, I don't even know. Am I talking to the guy from, Joey Knish 22 from Twitter? I mean, very reasonable takes on both Michigan and Ohio State there. That is Joey Knish. I will say, I think that's really bothering the Buckeye fans is they're getting beat up at the line of scrimmage. I mean, our parents' generation, Woody versus Bo at the line of scrimmage, and then the last 2 decades, Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer beating up Michigan at the line of scrimmage. For that to completely flip and Harbaugh winning it the old school way that people love watching, that, the grandfather, the father, and their generation, that's really bothering people because, I mean, Ryan Day's kind of built more of a Big 12 type program.
So, I couldn't agree with you more. Right. They've kind of adjusted to more of that NFL passing scheme, hired a Big 12 defensive coordinator. You go with the culture maintains to who you hire, and that I agree with you. That is kind of, and when you go up against the Michigan team, a physical, that Wisconsin team, that might be, want to be depending. Even we'll see what they look like this year, but it gets to, I mean, you saw the Northwestern game when it was 50-degree winds last year, and they couldn't pass the ball. It's a close game for, a 1-win Northwestern team because it's outdoors, it's bad weather, it's cold. It's just a system that I don't know if it totally meshes with the schedule you have to play in this conference.
I was going to go to Penn State, but I think the better transition would be to talk about a school that I'm kind of peculiar with as far as transitioning to a pass-happy offense. Wisconsin, new coach. I think we all agree Luke Fickell was a home run hire for them. Or I don't think.
Do we all agree? Go ahead.
I'm not saying, really.
Go ahead.
I don't think he's a. I mean, we can question the offensive coordinator hire that he made, but I think Luke Fickell's a good. You don't think he's a good coach?
I'm not going to say he's not a good coach. I don't know if I'd go home run.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk Badgers, though. I mean, I'm talking spring game because maybe I overreact and maybe I shouldn't have jumped on such the sell. But I saw a game played in bad weather. It snowed for the spring game, windy weather. They got transfers galore, brand new offense, and they're throwing it all over the field. They got interceptions. Not a great look. I thought, I know everyone wants the Big Ten West to maneuver into the 21st century, but sometimes weather is going to dictate how you play as a program. And let's face it, the last 3 decades, Wisconsin probably second most successful program in the Big Ten, behind Ohio State. If we're talking the full 3 decades, I know Michigan's made a run here the last couple of years, but I mean, they played a pretty good, successful style of ball. Ground and pound, recruit offensive linemen, have running backs. I just thought they needed to recruit better a little bit and maybe modernize the offense a little bit. I mean, I thought they were rather predictable last few years under Paul Chryst, but let's talk Wisconsin. I mean, I think defensively they'll be fine. I just don't know about Tanner Mordecai throwing the football 50 times. I don't think they are, but I think they're going to throw it 30 sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know about him throwing the football in Madison, Wisconsin in late October, November. What say you? And then a lot of these games are going to be at night, I'm seeing. Cold at night. Let's throw it 35 times. I'm turning around and handing it off to Malusi and obviously Braylon Allen.
No, I'm with you. I mean, it's just one of those where you've seen anytime a program goes through this seismic shift in offensive identity, I'm worried. I'm worried year one. You saw, and this is an extreme example, but you remember Georgia Tech, they go from the triple option, then they want to play, and it was an absolute disaster. And so, again, now, that's an extreme example, but to go from this, we're going to, bring in every Wisconsin offensive lineman, we're going to man ball, which worked very well for a very long time. I get that, in the new Big Ten with no divisions and USC and UCLA, maybe that wouldn't have been enough. So I see what they're shooting for here, but the year one transition, I gotta say, this might be my number one, what in terms of current market disagreement is Wisconsin being such a strong favorite for that division there. I don't see it. I think there's going to be some transition costs. I think the defense isn't as good as it, with Jim Leonard walking out the door. I don't think they recruited as well as they can. It used to be linebacker they'd find these, 3-star guys, turn them into all-star. It started kind of falling apart a little bit. And I think there's going to be some transition costs year one, both sides of the ball. So I'm a seller. I'm a seller on Wisconsin. I'm a seller on their being such a a strong division favorite there. This is one that I'm not buying. And again, I've never been the biggest Fickell guy either. I'm not going to say I know what Cincinnati did, but I just don't think he's going to come in. This is going to be a home run year one. So. Yeah, it's a regular season win.
Under their win total? You're going to go under 8.5?
You know what? I think I played here, but they do miss.
I don't know, man.
I know. That's the problem. They got some of they did get somewhat. I mean,
division, no Michigan, no Penn State, Ohio State's at home, Iowa's at home. I mean, Nebraska's at home. I don't know, man. That schedule's. I mean, I could see them being favored in 10 games. Maybe 11.
I mean, it doesn't set up great for an 8.5. I would play a 9 if 8.5 is the best out there current, Zach. Then we'll pass on it.
All right, fair enough. That's Joey Knish, ladies and gentlemen. Although I like, one example that I thought was unique. Not that I agree with it. Bill Connolly does a good job. He said the Fickell hire of the offensive coordinator reminded him of what Stoops did at Oklahoma, get Mike Leach way back in the day. Total pass happy. You wouldn't think that would be the case with a defensive-minded coach. So it worked out for Stoops. I will see if it works out for Fickell. I just thought that was a unique example. I don't know if it's going to pay off. There's other people questioning it too. If you read some of the previews, there's some scouting reports and like from opposing anonymous coaches that are questioning it, and like the Athlons and Lindy's, if you're reading them.
They don't recruit that like the roster that he inherited.
No, I don't think they
Isn't
do.
that it's not that type of so like I don't know. I think it's going to take some time to turn over to get that type of player.
Let's talk another team that I think has some quarterback question marks. Maybe not from a talent perspective, but I haven't been overwhelmed with what I saw, particularly again in the spring game. And that's Penn State, who I love their running back duo, the freshman duo of Allen and Singleton last year. Dynamite. I think they're okay at wide receiver. I think defensive front could have some of the best pass rush ability in the entire country. I think secondary is fine. I like Manny Diaz as defense corner when he's not playing Michigan or whatever that defensive calls were in that particular game when they got run over. But Penn State, Drew Allar, I think it rides on them whether or not they can finally get over that hump and beat an Ohio State or a Michigan. They get Michigan at home. They travel to Ohio State. I'm not there yet. I think they're better than everybody else, obviously, in the Big Ten. But I got a couple of too many question marks, particularly at quarterback, to say that they're going to pass Ohio State or Michigan, that this is the year. What say you?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like Mike Urich, the OC, I know he's going in the year. It hasn't been – it feels like their offense – when it was at its best was like Sean Clifford running around. It never felt like a naturally, like they were able to run the ball some. And it's like they haven't been short on talent. I know Franklin can really sell. They've still been able to recruit at a pretty high level, but with some of the losses on defense, I mean, they had some legitimate like high level NFL guys go out the door to replace that. And then do I really see the offense? I mean, to get there, to get up to this echelon of the Ohio State Michigans and beat them, like, can we see the offense taking like a big step forward? I'm just not there because I think Michigan's better this year. And it's like, are they going to go on the road and beat Ohio State?
No.
Yeah, I don't think it sets up well for the I think and the Maryland team that I think is pretty live in this. I think they could give them some trouble. That I don't know if they can pass. So yeah, I mean, do I think they're probably a 9-3 team, a good team? That right there, yeah. But do I see this being like the year it all comes together for them? Not for me.
Agree. And that was an alarming spring game because Matt Millen's on the call to Big Ten, and I think I tweeted this out. He was like, wow, if you're watching this, it was ugly. I mean, the second team, it was first team versus second team, and the second team defense dominated the first team Penn State offense. That you don't see, and that raises some eyebrows when you can't. I mean, when I see dominate, I mean, Penn State offense didn't score. The first team against the second team. I mean, that's just, I don't know. I mean, that was an alarming bell. So much that it got me to bet West Virginia in week 1, and now it's one of my few plays where I got the line moving against me. I might come back to it, though. And again, another hint and preview when Knish and I start up the weekly shows again. We'll start up every single Monday starting August the 7th through the end of the season. So make sure you're checking us out. We will start in with that August 7th broadcast, talking week 0, week 1, and really start to dive into some of these matchups. Let's talk Iowa. Obviously, another team lightning rod of an offseason with not only the gambling scandal, but also the stipulations on Brian Ferentz's contract as far as can the offense average 25 points per game? Can this Iowa team win at least 7 games? I like McNamara. He's an upgraded quarterback, provided he's healthy. It can't get any worse than what they were on the offensive side of the ball last year. It was as bad as anything you've seen in the country, at least from a Power 5 perspective. I think they'll be okay. Defense will be fine. And who in the West is that much better than them? I mean, certainly I don't think Wisconsin's that much better than them. Minnesota's not. So what say you on Iowa? I think we originally took under 8.5.
Yeah.
A lot of buyback against us on over 7.5, and we're right back to where we started 3 months ago.
I'm still a seller. I just don't think, with some of the defensive losses that they had, I can't believe they brought Brian. I mean, I know they, said this is the last year. We're gonna if he doesn't hit this contract stipulation in that. I mean, even so, they just don't seem like I refuse to believe that just because we put some stipulation and they're going to open it. I just don't think he knows what he's doing. Like there's been so many games where the offensive game plan has just been absolutely morbid. And again, Cade McNamara, could he execute a normal game management type system and that he he used at Michigan? Sure, but I mean, is he a guy that's giving you this massive ceiling? He doesn't give you any mobility. I think that's some of the other issues they had. They're just like they've got these statues in the pocket that like they can't do anything with any type of RPO or any of that. It's just very stagnant. Eric All comes in from Michigan as well. Again, nice player. Tight end there that they've had to leverage that position, but the skill position talent is still pretty brutal. I think the defense takes a step back. The offensive line, that's the biggest issue with Iowa. The offensive line hasn't been elite, in the last few years where they haven't been able to just maul people. And if you can't do that, I don't think any of the rest of it comes together. So for me, I just, it's, and I know they didn't, it's not the hardest schedule in the world. Utah State and then Iowa State, if, however many, whoever guys that, weren't putting in the SGPs are available, and then Western Michigan. So I will say that the non-con, especially if Iowa State has a bunch of suspensions, could not get any easier. So they good 3-0. They don't have. I don't think they get Michigan or Ohio State in the crossover, right?
That's the hang-up.
So man. I mean, listen. I will say that if they can't go to the win 8 or 9 games or go to with this schedule, get the Ferentz family out of there. It's over. So. I'm still a seller, though. I still think these games against, Purdue, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, I think they could lose any of them, if not all of them. So,
you're going under 8.5? I think the 8.5's available now.
If the 8.5 is back at normal job, I'm fine with going under there.
We will have our producer extraordinaire, Zach Phillips, look into that. But I think 8.5s have popped back up in the market. 134 is not too shabby as far as not heavy juice. We're going to use that? I think that was what we originally bet 3 months ago, isn't it?
Yeah, no, and I'm fine going back to the well.
Our guns. We'll stick to our guns. Iowa under 8.5.
They better hope that everybody on Iowa State was, playing craps and betting around, because they'd lose that game, and then it's over. Then listen. I think this is a talent level wise, a 6-6 type team that maybe could schedule themselves into an 8 or 9 win season. But listen, I'm not just going to go.
Let's take
8.5 minus 105, baby. Now we've got us a bet.
That looks like Caesars there.
Yes,
so
it is.
Willie Hill Caesars under 8.5 on Iowa. There you go. That reminds me. I mean, that's why you shop, folks, and use that bet stamp tool to shop for the best prices. 30 cents makes a difference, especially when they're holding up your money for 4 or 5 months. So this is in the weeds. You mentioned the offensive line not being as good. I wondered, obviously they had to get rid of him for the racial comments, but they had one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the country. And when do you see that starting to rise? 2-3 years after he departs. Reminds me, Stanford lost their strength and conditioning guy that was there under Harbaugh and the first 5 years under Shaw. He leaves. Nobody pays attention to it because it doesn't show up immediately. But 2-3 years later, then it shows. They're not running that ground and pound. So I'm wondering if something similar is happening with this Iowa program. So under 8.5. There we go. A bet. Let's talk a few other teams. Let's talk that, not that they're going to be one of the best teams in the league or even a mediocre team. Let's talk Michigan State, who I know you have some thoughts on Mel Tucker. I don't think anyone can, say that that's a good contract right now after what happened a year ago and what's happened, off the field. In recruiting hasn't gone as well as expected after that 11-win season a couple years ago. Michigan State, and particularly, you can't when your starting quarterback and your top playmaker on offense and wide receiver Keon Coleman decide to hit the transfer portal post-spring. Not a good look for Sparty. A lot of negativity in the market on them. A lot of under 5.5 that I perfectly understand. What say you on Sparty this year?
Yeah, that's even if Peyton Thorne, we didn't think he was the greatest QB, and they have some other options. I think from a talent-wise, they'll be okay at QB. It's just, what does it say, from where your program's at in turn, when your starting quarterback, who took the most of the reps in, QB1 in the spring game, and your best the best player on the team, not your best wide receiver, your best overall player, just depart on the last day of the portal to get out of there. He had some quote that, from when he was at Florida State, he's like, I did my time, did my sentence up north. Like they sentenced him to, a year in prison having to go to Michigan State. They lost they lost their two best, their defensive line coach, their pass rush specialist. They brought back both coordinators, neither of whom I'm a big fan of. They've turned over the whole recruiting staff. It's just trending even if this team, and it's Mel, he hit the portal year. He hit the jackpot with Kenneth Walker, and I think he's used that strategy too much. Instead of like all that, trying to bring in a talent, if he kept going back to the portal last year, they mostly struck out. I don't know. I just don't love, obviously they're stuck with that contract there, but this will be quite a testing year for Mr. Tucker here. I think the biggest issue for me is that they kept both. I don't like their defensive coordinator, Scotty Hazelton, at all. I think their secondary got absolutely cooked last year too often.
Last 2 years.
Yeah, as you said, last 2, and they bring them back. I think part of that is system. I mean, they've got Washington coming in a non-con that's probably going to. I mean, listen, this is a team that we said has obviously secondary issues. They lost their best safety in Xavier Henderson. And after, a couple of cupcakes, then they've got Washington and Maryland, 2 of the most prolific passing offenses in the country. So, yeah, I'm a seller on Michigan State. Obviously, they get Ohio State, they get Michigan, then they get Penn State. I mean, the tough division. I don't see a lot of dubs here. And I think, Money Mel is going to be really, they can't get rid of that. The thing with Jimbo and A&M, you pay this one, you can't get rid of them. No one's cutting that kind of check. It just is what it is. And you got to hope that maybe after this year, if they go, a 4-8 or something, that they, change coordinators.
How much was that 5.5 juice, Zach? Was that like a minus 180, 190? I don't think I'm in that position.
Yeah, that's
I recommend that. Yeah, and then Michigan State. Yeah, I know some other people have minus 140. Are we doing that one? That's not too much.
I'm okay with that under 5.5 minus 140.
Yeah, let's go under 5.5 minus 140 on Michigan State because I just think there's some tough matchups like you mentioned. Keep in mind if you're listening, and we recommend that you're hitting that subscribe and like button so you get notified whenever a new episode hits. We had a new episode a couple months back when FanDuel was putting out these early lines on games. We said lay the 7. I think it might have been, it was 7.5, maybe even 8 on Washington against Michigan State. That's no longer that price. That's jumped up a few points. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and you're getting notified. Let's talk a few more teams, and then we'll wrap it up with the bottom of the conference. We've mentioned this team a couple times, Maryland. I think you and I are probably a little bit more optimistic on this team, at least from the early market numbers. The high-level talent, we've said, hey, like the Kansas States of the world, the Iowas would be a good example in this. They don't have a lot of high-level talent at the skill position. This program does have a lot of high talent level at the skill position. Tunga Vailoa is back at quarterback for his 3rd year. Not as good as his brother, but I think he's pretty good. I like their transfers at wide receiver. Even though they lose a couple of kids. That kid from FIU, Chambers, is going to be solid. They even, they lost a boatload at the line of scrimmage, but I thought they did a good job in the portal on the defensive line particularly. I think the biggest question mark on the whole team is going to be that offensive line and whether or not it gels. If it does, I would not be a bit surprised that this year, after almost beating Ohio State and almost beating Michigan a year ago, when playing those two teams very close, wouldn't surprise me that this year Maryland gets one of the big 3. I'll throw Penn State in the mix, playing there in the East. I bet over 6.5 wins. I think some other people even, took it over 7. I think this is a team. I wouldn't be shocked if they won 8 games. What say you?
No, I'm with you. I think 6.5 there. I was there. I joined you on that one. That's probably my favorite play of the entire conference. Over 6.5 there. I'm still okay. Zach will have to look for us to see what is out there on some 7s. But no, I'm with you. I mean, this is a team that I think it would be like they're going to start 5-0. They've got just an absolute cupcake schedule to start to get to 5. And then, as they get into it, they still get a Northwestern team that's going to be morbid, Nebraska, Rutgers. I think that's good. Listen, you want the I'll play over 7. I think the floor, and I'll go high unless there's an injury. I think the floor is 7, and it's potentially a team that could get to 9 or 10 if they can upset one of the big boys there. I know they get Michigan at home, Penn State, so. They just have, where I think they have, a significant talent barrier to some of these teams that they're going to play on the schedule here, especially starting out in that first 5 weeks, and then Maryland and Rutgers, where I think it would take a massive upset for them, to be only a 6-win team. So, yeah, I think 7 is going to be the floor for them, and I could see them 8, 9. Who knows? With the you never know if they can beat the Buckeyes in that. Maybe that they got Michigan coming in there for a spot in the division champion.
That's a horrible spot for Michigan. That's after Penn State.
I totally agree.
Ohio State. That's probably the worst spot in college football this year.
That could be. Hey, this could be kind of the the dark horse. I don't know if they're good enough on the line of scrimmages for that type of a season, but yeah, I like this team quite a bit.
All right, we'll put that in over 7 again. I think that's a push at worst there.
I agree.
Yeah, over 7. Lock that one in. Any other teams catch your fancy? At the bottom, we got to, with their loyal fan base, let's talk a little Nebraska. Matt Rule, I think, is a solid hire for them. I think they can't give him, although I thought Scott Frost was a good hire for Nebraska. I don't know where this program is at anymore.
I still like Scott Frost. Somebody give him a job. I think he just it just didn't what he was trying to do. Worked at I'd hire him at Jacksonville State. I'd hire him whatever. Get him back to Florida where he can actually recruit.
Yeah, and that's Ken. Where's the recruiting base? Because when that team took that next step in the '90s, they were pulling kids from California and whatnot. I don't know if they were doing it on the up and up, because I don't know if those inner city kids from Los Angeles could find Nebraska on a map. So I don't know how Osborne was bringing in these kids, and Wistrom and Lawrence Phillips, they weren't great off the field citizens either. So they're no longer doing that. And then you've seen obviously just this program continue to fall. I mean, Solich wasn't good enough to go 9-3, 10-3. They fire him. Bellini's going 9-4 every single season. That wasn't good enough. You fire him, and now you can't even get to bowl eligibility. It's been 6 straight seasons with a losing record. I played under 6.5. I don't think this program all of a sudden – look, they were better than their records under Frost because he was an idiot in close games. But I think 6-6 is a really good season if they get the bowl eligibility. I don't see 7-5. They all of a sudden do that. Do you see it? Because I'm on the under 6.5. Market disagrees with me.
No, I'm with you. I don't. This is one where there's been a lot of public perception that's positive on Nebraska. I agree with you. I think this is like a total turnover job here for Matt Rule. I mean, Frost could not I don't know how they turned this around. These people are insane in Nebraska. It's like and I get it, they had so much success for so long that they think they want to be this, national title contender. It's over. You can't get kids to Lincoln, Nebraska. There's no in-state talent. There's no local talent. I mean, you've got to go to, and Frost tried it. The kids from Florida, they didn't want to come. And why would they? Why would you want to go to Lincoln, Nebraska? Yeah. So, he just couldn't get the kids there. And so what did he do? The last year, he tried to go portal heavy, 1 or 2 hits, but he didn't have a full roster for it. I know, Rules tried to go and get a couple quarterbacks out of the portal. Jeff Sims coming in. I just think it's going to be a rough year one. And if he can turn this job around, I think they have to go to, what Wisconsin or Iowa or one of them's been doing of, get rid of this, we're going to try to go back to more of a physicality type system in that, and, get some of these, Midwest Great Plains kids that can come in and build up the offensive line. Be what Kansas State is. To me, that's if you're going to win in Nebraska, I think that's what you got to do. I don't see it this year. I'm fine with under 6.5. I would be shocked if they got to 7. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be shocked if they were 3-9 or something. I think it's going to take more than, these people. But I will say, I remember I heard an interview with a Michigan kid, and they were talking about what was the loudest stadium you've ever played in when his career's over, and everybody thought Columbus at Ohio State. He said at Nebraska. At Nebraska at night, these people are absolutely nuts. I will say, the fan base is crazy. They want to support the team, but I don't know. It's a tough place to coach, tough place to win. And I don't think they're winning many games this year.
Under 6.5, minus 134 at FanDuel. We'll mark that down. Couple things I want to say. Matt Rule's first season, he's turned around programs, but it hasn't been immediate. It's not Urban Meyer wins right away. It usually takes 2 or 3 years, and then he gets the program to turn around. I do understand a little bit of Nebraska fans' frustration. You're not going. The 90s aren't coming back anytime soon, if ever. Again, you're never going to see 3 titles in 4 years. But you are losing. You're not in the tougher of the 2 big divisions. I mean, it's one thing to be losing to Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, but they're consistently losing to Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois. Beat them up. That would frustrate me if I was a Nebraska fan. And then you mentioned Kansas State, a program similar geographic that's having success that won a Power 5 conference. That would upset me, considering how passionate they are. And I've been to Lincoln. That they're building this new $100+ million football athletic complex facility. They got the money. They have this fan support. But
they definitely got that. But what? It's over. The division's over. They missed their window. This whole thing. whole time to do it, and now it's like now you're going in and you've got to compete with the USC bag and kids that are wanting to. You want to go to Hollywood? You want to go to USC, or do you want to go to Lincoln, Nebraska?
And they kind of lost. I know from a money aspect, and maybe some of their other programs, the move to the Big Ten was better. But I think they've kind of lost their way recruiting ability. You're not recruiting those Texas kids anymore.
Right.
You're not playing the Texases and the Oklahomas of the world like you were in the Big 12. So I think that from the football perspective, the move to the Big Ten hasn't been good for them from a recruiting aspect. So that's Nebraska. Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers, Indiana, and then obviously the off-field Northwestern issues. Any other teams really catching your eye from a win total? If we can find Purdue like an under 5.5, I'll take that. I think it's a tough first year for a brand new first-time head coach. I don't mind his hires. I don't mind Hudson Card at quarterback. I just think Jeff Brom squeezed everything out of that program the last 5-6 years. And I just think with a first-time coach, they're a 4-8, 5-7 team. And then you look at their schedule. Where are the surefire wins? Fresno State, at Virginia Tech, Syracuse. I mean, Fresno State's like a quasi-Power 5 team. I mean, that's 12 games against Power 5 competition. Where are the surefire wins for Purdue? I'll own that 5.5 minus 140.
As you said, I like Ryan Walters. I like Hudson Card. I like what they brought in. Just as you said, it's not a team that was, loaded with talent to begin with. And they kind of had everything break right for them last year in terms of like getting to the title game. They won the right games in that. Illinois, I say one future that I played that's still out there. Big Ten West Division winner. I played some Illinois at 8-1. I will say
some people on the under there. I didn't get it. I thought that's a win total I haven't bet yet.
Now, granted, they had, it's not they get Kansas, they get Toledo, and those aren't, automatic Florida Atlantic. So their non-con isn't, filled with like automatic dubs, but in conference, which obviously if you're betting the conference future, those non-cons don't matter. You don't get Ohio State, you don't get Michigan. I think they've got Wisconsin at home, and so I think the conference schedule for them is very manageable, and it's a team. I mean, this is a team that really they should have won the division last year. They had the best team in the division. They lost a couple of the key games, and granted, now they lost some major talent to the NFL. That is a team that secretly had like more NFL talent than anybody would have thought last year, and I still think the roster is pretty good. Lovie Smith, God bless him, couldn't really coach, did recruit pretty well for Illinois, and I think Burt runs that type of scheme that works in the Big Ten West, and I think he's going to give some trouble. So I like 8-1. And again, I like it much better than betting them to win the con, because again, you got to play Ohio State and Michigan, on the fast turf there. Do I want to bet them in? No. Win the division, Big Ten West division winner. I like 8-1 there. I think that's pretty widely available. I know FanDuel's got it right now, but 8-1 Illinois' Big Ten West. To me, I think that's. I'm not going to go crazy. I think it's significantly mispriced. I don't think there are any, to me, they're on that, tier of the Wisconsins and the Iowa there, and they're being priced significantly worse than that to win the division, and they don't play Ohio State or Michigan. So, yeah, Illinois 8-1. I like it a decent amount there.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. You mentioned, the style of play molds very well for last year, the Big Ten West. They also got the personnel to do it. Offensive, defensive lines. Good as anybody in the Big Ten West.
They're just as talented as any team in this division, and they're being, priced down there like, they're one of the middle tier.
There you go, Knish, 8-1 to win, not to win the Big Ten, win the West.
Don't go Big Ten. Don't go big. You don't want to have to, you don't want to be a 20-point dog of Michigan in Indianapolis. So just Big Ten West.
There you go. That's Joey Knish, ladies and gentlemen. Before we talk the last couple of remaining teams here, let me remind everybody. Circa Million, 5 already. 5th year of doing the Circa Million, and then you also have the Circa Survivor. That both contests are available in Las Vegas. If you're interested in NFL contests, I know this is a college show, but I'm here to tell you, and Knish will agree, these are the premier national contests in the country, in the world right now. Why? I'll give you the top reason. $14 million in guaranteed prizes, no rake. So, and if the entries go above the guarantee, all the extra money goes to the prize pool. So we're talking about a minimum of $14 million. Entries have been open the last couple months. You have until September 9th to get your ass to Vegas to sign up and register. You have to register in person at Circus Sportsbook, whether Las Vegas, Henderson, Sparks, Reno, you name it, anywhere in the state of Nevada, weekly picks. You don't have to be in town for the weekly picks. You can sign up through a proxy. Circa $1.5 million. Here's the two differences between the contest. Circa $1.5 million is against the spread. $6 million guaranteed prizes, $1,000 per entry. You can enter as many as 5. Pick 5 teams against the spread each week. The winner with the best record as far as win percentage takes home $1 million. There's quarterly, there's season-long prizes. There's a booby prize for last place, $100,000 to the worst finisher. Survivor, totally different contest. We're talking straight up. $8 million guaranteed to the winners. And there can be multiple winners. I'll get to that in a second. $1,000 per entry. You can enter as many as 10 on the Circus Survivor. Pick one team straight up every week to win. If that team loses or ties, we've seen a lot of ties in the NFL here recently, the entry is eliminated. You can only pick one team one time each season. So you pick the Chiefs, they're out. You can't pick them 10 weeks later.
Don't pick them week 1, baby.
Yeah, you got to go 20-0 or be the last person standing to win. If a single person wins, they get the entire pot. If multiple people get eliminated and the contest goes down to 0 that 1 week, then the prize is split up. 20-0. How is it 20 weeks and not 18? Thanksgiving and Black Friday combined for a week. Christmas Day is also its own week. That's the Circa Million and the Circa Survivor. I'm rocking. No, I wasn't. That last episode, I was rocking the Circa hat. I'm a big fan of Circa. You and I might be broadcasting down there. We'll see what happens there at some point this year. Any of the other teams catch your fancy at the bottom? I mean, I will say one thing. Big Ten at the top, as good as the SEC, when you're talking to Ohio States and Michigans, the Penn States of the world, where they're not as good as the SEC, is the bottom. Because, I mean, there's some dreads. Indiana, I think this is it for Tom Allen. Northwestern's a shit show off the field right now. They were a shit show on the field last year, winning 1 game, losing 11 straight. Anybody catches your eye? Rutgers still struggling with Schiano?
Yeah, I would say, the thing with Northwestern is if this would have all came out like a year later, I think people just would have been like, oh, time to get rid of Pat Fitzgerald anyway. Like, it was over anyway. The guys, they lost like 18 games. They wouldn't have beaten that choke job in Nebraska and Ireland. They lost like 18 games in a row, and this year, what are they going to be favored in 1 game? Like, I mean, this is another year where like 2-10, like it would have been like 28 out of 30 losses for Fitzgerald. I think whatever they were doing, and this is, like the macro of college football is, it's hard for them to get in players. They can't get anybody in the transfer portal. It's hard for them to recruit. This feels very Stanfordish to me, where it's like in the modern era of transfer portal college football, I don't know if Northwestern can really, like, I don't know what the ceiling is for this program. And with divisions going away, a couple of the miracle runs they had to the, the championship game are over with. So I don't know what to tell you. If you're a Rovell or a Northwestern football fan, I think some dark days are ahead. And not just because of the hazing stuff, because it was going to be almost impossible for the program to compete in this conference anyway. I God love Tom Allen. It's shaping up rough this year. I don't know. He should probably go run for another job or something. So yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty ugly battle here at the bottom of the Big Ten. And I don't know. The Schiano thing is like, what is this, like years? I mean, how long is this supposed to take here? Like, they're like, what is it?
I think it's
year
5
4. It's going to be like year 8 and be like, well, maybe it's maybe get 6 wins this year. I don't see it happen. They should be better than they are so far. I think I don't know if the Schiano magic is coming back again.
I know most people won't like watching it, but it's a national game. That opening, when we'll talk week 1, when you and I start breaking it down here on the weekly shows starting August the 7th. But that's kind of an intriguing game to me, Northwestern Rutgers. It'll be ugly. It'll be, 17-14 or whatever, 17-10. But that's an important game. Schiano needs to win that game now with everything.
He absolutely needs to win that game. And that quarterback that they paid like $1 million of NIL money wins that. He better show something, because the guy I saw last year looked like
starter.
Yeah, well, he better be, and he better be good, because they paid him like 7 figures to come. And the kid I saw last year looked like he should be playing at like Northern Illinois, not in the Big Ten. So,
not even Northern Illinois. Not even
I don't want to say it, too early, but I think I don't know. He looks like a bust,
to say the least. I will say Northwestern's facilities, man, that practice facility right there of Lake Michigan, woo. They put the money into that. They're not getting any return on investment.
Yeah, the ROI doesn't look good right now.
And did you see this? They were going to build an $800 million new football stadium. Those plans are on hold right now, to say the least. I don't have anything else, so I just want to recap it for everybody else. We We took Iowa under 8.5.
Yep.
That was one of them. We took I owned Purdue under 5.5. We took Michigan State under 5.5. We took Illinois 8-1 to win the West Division, not the conference, West Division only to be a division winner in the West. Maryland over 7. Is there one I'm forgetting? Did we take? I don't think we took Wisconsin.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Oh, Nebraska under 6.5. We were pretty negative.
Oh, yeah. We were firing today, baby.
Yeah, we did fire.
This is our guy. This is the Hit the Books conference right here.
It is. You and I have one more to record, the SEC, and then we start up our weekly podcast here, our weekly shows. Do you got any closing thoughts? I know this is your conference, the Big Ten.
Oh, hashtag free Harbaugh, and I think we'll be seeing a amazing blue 3-peat, baby. That's what I know what we're both rooting for.
That is Joey Knish. For our producer extraordinaire, Zach Phillips. I'm merely Brad Powers. Guys, make sure you're subscribed to the Hit the Books YouTube channel so you get notified in real time whenever a new episode drops or we go live. If you do enjoy our content, please smash the like button. If you're listening in audio form, please rate and review it 5 stars. And for all the show updates, make sure you're following us on Twitter at HitTheBooksHQ and at TheHammerHQ. For Joey Knish and Zach Phillips, I'm Brad Powers. You just watched Hit the Books.